Let me explain something about guitar playing. Everyone's got their own character, and that's the thing that's amazed me about guitar playing since the day I first picked it up. Everyone's approach to what can come out of six strings is different from another person, but it's all valid. Jimmy Page. I love this quote because Jimmy Page is a guitar god. Jimmy Page has been very influential in other guitar players that came after him, guitar playing, and myself included. If any of you listen to this speech, play or just getting into guitar, you should check out Jimmy Page and Led Zeppelin. What do I know? You all could be diehard Zeppelin fans. Jimmy Page is the most influential guitar player in history. Jimmy Page's early career is one to be recognized. After early years, Jimmy Page hits the high point in his career. Jimmy Page's influence on guitarists of his era and guitarists slash bands of this era is unmatched. Let's jump back a few albums and years. Jimmy Page started off young in his journey to be the greatest guitar player to ever walk this earth. Jimmy Page is from across the pond, if you know what I mean. He was a session player very early in his guitar career. Through the years of being a session guitar player, his reputation grew and got bigger. If you listen to any rock and roll, you know that the British played a great role in shaping rock and roll as we know it today. The bands from Britain have also produced some wonderful guitar players. With this said, Jimmy Page would join a group that would have two of the greatest guitar players to walk the earth, also in Eric Clapton and Jeff Beck. The group that all these outstanding guitar players played in is called the Yardbirds. There's a time to part ways with everything in life, and now it's time for Jimmy Page to part ways with the Yardbirds. What Jimmy Page would do after leaving the Yardbirds was in the category of historic. Jimmy Page would get Robert Plant to sing, John Paul Jones to play the bass, John Bonham to play the drums, and create the greatest rock and roll band ever to be formed, Led Zeppelin. Here's a little fun fact. 50 years ago, on September 7th, Led Zeppelin played their first show, but under the new name of the New Yardbirds. In Led Zeppelin's first studio album, Led Zeppelin or Led Zeppelin 1, they played a cover of a song called Dazed and Confused, which is a Yardbird song. I've listened to both versions of the song, and I like Led Zeppelin's adaptation of the earlier Jimmy Page Yardbird song. You should give them a listen and let me know what you think. Jimmy Page and Led Zeppelin have had 10 songs in the Hot 100 chart list, but only one of them has only hit in the top 10. The Billboard 200 chart deals with albums, though, and Jimmy Page and Led Zeppelin have 22 albums that have been on the Billboard 200. They've had seven albums to reach the top spot, and 13 albums in the top 10. With this, you can see that Led Zeppelin and Jimmy Page were and still are very successful. But as I earlier stated, everything good in life has to come to an end. On September 25th, 1980, John Bonham died due to inhalation of vomit while sleeping. Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, and John Paul Jones could not believe the death, so the band split up and went in different directions. Jimmy Page and Led Zeppelin influence on rock bands after them, and now is huge. The influence has touched a band in this day and age so much that the band has been called Led Zeppelin 2 or Baby Zeppelin. You would think that members of Led Zeppelin would get mad, but frontman Robert Plant even called them Led Zeppelin 2. The band is called Greta Van Fleet. They are my favorite artist slash band at this moment. Greta Van Fleet's sound is like the early 70s. It's the 70s and early 80s rock. It sounds like you're listening to your favorite rock and roll bands of the day. The band has been quoted as saying they are trying to bring back an old sound that is what rock needs. Everything changes, but rock needs to go backwards in sound for me. Some people like the hard sound, but don't get me wrong, I like this sound too, but not all the time. In my early teen years, I started listening to old rock bands like Led Zeppelin and many more. The sound and tone that the bands brought to my ears was one that I found wonderful. The rockin' riffs, face-melting solos made me sit in my room in awe. A few years later, I would get my own guitar. I wanted to learn rockin' riffs and face-melting solos that Zeppelin had and other bands did. When learning these, I learned techniques that Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton, and Jimi Hendrix, and many more would use in the future. I know that I list guitar gods, but I learned most from playing Zeppelin classics and Jimmy Page solos. Jimmy Page and Zeppelin have been around longer than I have been alive on this earth. What Jimmy Page has done before Zeppelin, with Zeppelin, and the influence on guitar playing and guitarists and me and myself have been tremendous. Jimmy Page's early years started him off on the right foot, and Jimmy Page's Led Zeppelin days made him rise to the top. And the influence of Jimmy Page and Zeppelin for bands after them and myself is undoubtedly good.